feel like the world's changing for better and worse all the time. It's getting better in the fact that things are happening faster and quicker and with more power and more money and more everything. It's just bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. But that comes at the cost of all the time spent actually thinking about whether the changes we're making are good or bad, or how they'll affect the environment, how they'll affect everybody else in the world, things like that.
Yeah, the world's definitely changing. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but it's definitely changing. Well, I think there are like lots of advances, but there are also things that are going backwards. Like, there's much better healthcare than there was, but then everything's more expensive. So it's kind of downward.
I think the world is changing a lot. Some things for the better and some things for the worse. I think the world has become a lot more unequal, but the standard of living for a lot of people has risen. But then now I think there's a bigger gap between those at the top and those at the bottom. So that's bad. I think that's the main thing, and that obviously incorporates a lot of different issues that result from that, but also it depends on how you measure the standard of living. Whether you measure that by income or by access to education, or how socially mobile people are, or any other factors.
I think the world is always changing, it never really stops, but there's some areas where it's improvement, where, I mean, 10 years ago the thought of having the internet on your phone was just absolutely ridiculous. There was, you know, iPads just seemed like the kind of science fiction movie type thing, but now we've got them everywhere. I think we're bringing the third one out. But then, of course, there's the really negative way that the world's changing. It seems everyone around the world seems to become more nationalised. So instead of working together, the countries seem to be building up their walls in the threat of almost like another Cold War. Also, I think we're becoming more kind of individualised, where we start caring more about ourselves rather than other people. And I think even in economic recession, we have to start remember that there's always people worse than us, worse off than us, and there's always people that we can help, despite being out of pocket. So the change can be seen in a positive and negative way. I mean, the advancement of humanity is always going to keep going, no matter what kind of is in the face of us, or what worth is that going to be if suddenly we go into nuclear war, or this fears that are going across borders. So it's an interesting concept, really.
Personally, I think the world is changing absolutely all the time. The developments that are happening every day, if you open a newspaper, it's just, especially technology and things like that. I mean, everyone I know, we're all on Facebook and Twitter and just things like that. The speed at which things are happening, because it's all up to date, it's on the internet, it's right now. And so yeah, I think it is changing, and that can only be for the better, surely. Because communication, I mean, you know, if you think back hundreds of years ago or whatever, when the printing press was invented, that was this revolutionary change. But if you think about what things were like then compared to how things are changing every day now, it took hundreds of years for things to change, and now suddenly it's something new all the time's happening. And I think it's great. I mean, when you look at the sort of bigger picture, I think communication is going to be key for solving problems across the world. And you know, if you're going to get really big, it's a bit of a slippery slope maybe, but I think an example, at the moment it may seem a bit random, but if you're on Facebook, you know, this Kony 2012 thing has gone absolutely viral and everyone's talking about it. And I think that's something that shows that it is changing for the better, because people are more aware of things they can do and to solve these problems which affect so many people. So yeah, it's great.
I think generally I want to be pessimistic, but the world is generally getting better, I think. Actually, I've just been writing an excellent project about sort of the future of history and really the impact that technology has on the modern day world, just on general life, really. I mean, we see its effects of sort of the social media today with sort of the Coney campaign and things like that that's just been this week, and sort of the perverse messages that can be spread now much more easily, and sort of how people are empowered now more than ever to sort of conduct these debates and also and to try and iron them out on that stage. But I think there is always an issue to this sort of thing, whether it's credible, whether sort of the arguments being thoroughly thought through, and when. But although discussion is very good, I think in a way this can be mismanaged. I mean, there's been quite a lot of controversy about the Coney campaign, about whether the actual evidence used in that film was really depicting the actual situation, or whether it was moved. I mean, we see these in the Arab Spring with like in Syria at the moment, when the activists are sending out footage of what actually happened in Turkey, which makes the situation look a lot worse. But generally, as regards of life, I think the spread of knowledge will always make the world better. I think whenever you learn, you become a better person. And generally, I think with access to this sort of thing, much more than before, I think we create a naturally more enlightened society.
Mm-hmm. Things that I think are better. I think women have more freedom now in the world. In the world in general, but I think in the Western world, women have more freedom. But also are still constrained in a lot of ways as well. But then so are men. But then it's just different. So that's something that's improved. And then healthcare has massively improved, and that's helped to keep people alive a lot longer. But then, as I was saying before, that's still a really unequal thing in the world. A lot of people have access, and a lot of people don't. So yeah, I think two main things for me, and access to education has risen, but that might be taking a backward step in Britain at the moment.